Josh, I did it again. Anyway, welcome to episode number 2 of the ORG podcast. I want to thank everybody for joining in on this live stream and letting us interview the different people and personalities throughout our industry, which is what this podcast really is going to be about, to connect everybody together so that we know each other. We're not alone. We're not alone bending wire in the middle of the night. There's somebody else out there doing the same thing. But today's guest is Brandon Farley. But before I bring him on, I want to say a special thanks to Josh. Josh, I'm going to add you real quick just so you can wave. He's in the background. We had some storms roll in last night, and so my internet connection's a little iffy, and so is my electricity. So if I go away, Josh is going to step in and help me finish this.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, we had storms last night too, so we may just end up having Brandon tell jokes.
Yeah, he can tell dad jokes all day long. So, well, speaking of Brandon, our first guest is Brandon Farley of Cottonwood Labs. Brandon, how you doing?
Doing great. Good to see you again, Kate.
Yes, and he is also the vice president of ORG, so this was a great segue. We started with Tiffany, who's president. We went to Brandon, who's now vice president. And then next week, we're going to have Lance, who is the treasurer and past president, however that works. But we'll have that. So we're going to work through the structure and the people behind the ORG, so you get to know all of us better. And then we start getting to know everyone else better, too. So anyway, Brandon, you are in Utah, right?
Yes, Salt Lake City, Murray, Utah, to be proper, as far as our exact location.
Oh, yeah, Murray. So my wife wanted to ask a question, and it's very important. How far are you from Skinwalker Ranch?
Skinwalker Ranch. I'm sorry, I don't know what Skinwalker Ranch is.
What?
Tell me about it.
Yeah, you need to watch the History Channel.
Okay.
The Skinwalker Ranch. It's she looked it up. You're 2 hours from there, so just be wary if you see any alien activity in the air or
I know Skinwalker. Okay,
yeah.
Now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's legendary now. Yeah.
Yeah, we got a big,
so many ranches up here, and
Yes.
we're about an hour and a half from where they shoot Yellowstone. So that might even be more important.
Yeah, she just now got into Yellowstone. And actually, while she's trimming retainers, her phone's up there. She's watching Yellowstone while she's working, and it slows her down a bit, but it's okay. It keeps her happy.
So about half of those scenes are shot here in our upper Uinta Basin area. So that area that they shoot all that is actually one of my favorite spots to go fishing and visit.
We've heard that term in the Skinwalker Ranch documentary series.
The Uinta Basin?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of on the southern side of that side. They're a couple hours, but yeah, that has been, someone personally bought that privately now, and they're doing the investigations. I need to catch myself up on that.
Oh yeah, they brought in a astrophysicist, NASA guy, and he's been doing experiments there, and they've been shooting up rockets. You probably saw some crazy stuff going on. But anyway, so are you originally from Utah?
I am originally from Salt Lake City, Utah. Yeah, I grew up in an area called Sandy, which is right up against the mountains, here on the Salt Lake City side. So.
Oh yeah, so you're just born and bred there.
Pretty much. I actually lived in Richmond, Virginia for about 12 years, and that's where I learned how to become an orthodontic lab technician.
Well, that was my first question, was going to be, what was your first introduction to an ortho lab? What do you remember the first ortho lab you saw or walked into?
So I got my start. The way this all happened was I broke my retainer, and
sorry,
right? Like, I mean, so I went into my orthodontist and I got a retainer, and they needed someone to trim study models at this time. So this had to be like maybe 2000 and 1999, in that cusp right there. And they needed someone to trim up study models, and I needed a new job. So I thought I'd give it a try. So I started as an in-house lab technician for Dr. Charles Thomas in Short Pump, Virginia. And I really enjoyed what I did. I really loved the industry. I liked working in the orthodontic office, and I really was fast at it, and I was really good. We took the turnaround time, like used to do an evaluation and then take the impressions, and it was about 2 weeks until they were getting their consultations in.
Right.
And I took that 2 week period, and it wasn't my intention. It just, I was trimming the models so fast we could do the consultations within 3 days of doing everything. So the throughput just went through the roof when I did that. And
oh, he loved you then.
He did. He didn't pay me like he did.
Yeah.
I think I was making $9.50 an hour at that time, guys. Maybe.
Well, that's not bad. That's not bad. Mine was $5 an hour starting in a lab, or not a lab, but as an assistant. So, but I started in the 90s, so it's a different world, I guess.
Well, I kind of made it, like I said, 99. It was right there. So
yeah.
But getting back to that, like, this is the funny thing, and you hear this over and over again. I used to do the study models, and then we'd pour these smaller working models, and I'd stick it in a box, and a couple days later, some retainers would show up.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Never thought about the process in between that, you know? So I worked there for about 6 months, 8 months, and one of the assistants said, why don't you learn how to make these retainers? You're doing such a good job. And I was like, what? Someone makes these?
Not the elves.
So nebulous in this whole process, and I say, yeah, that seems interesting. So I took a class at Dentarum, and that was actually Christian's dad from New England who taught me how to make poly retainers.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know Dentarum had classes. I knew Great Lakes did, but I had no idea Dentarum did.
So back in the day, they had a whole classroom in Dentarum, and it was very well done. It was well appointed, and those classes were taught by multiple people who are still in the industry today. Lance was also someone who taught me in those classes. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we'll ask him about that next week. So everybody tune in next week.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and so Lance was my second connection I ever made to the ortho industry. And he was teaching the herps. He taught the herps class, which was a separate class. And then he taught me how to do fixed appliances.
So, wow. How long was this?
I think the classes were about 2 to 3 days.
Oh, wow. That was a crash course if you ever...
It really was.
Yeah.
It really was. I still remember it to that day. Lance teaching me how to prep a crown to receive a band. And
oh, wow.
We've modified it a little bit, but man, we still pretty much use the same process.
And he just did that at our conference.
He did.
Yeah, he did a course on prepping the tooth for getting a band. So that full circle. That's crazy.
And I've seen a lot of methods, and it's pretty efficient way of getting a crown ready to be fit with a band. So, but yeah. I've stayed in contact with Lance all these years. He's been very influential in giving me direction, always there to answer questions for me. And, I remember starting out at the beginning, just calling him, being like, is this really how it is?
Does it get any better?
So, but yeah, we did that. And then I worked as an in-house lab tech for Dr. Thomas. And then I also got a job for full-time at Accutech.
Oh, yes.
I think it's Midlothian. So you can still call it Richmond, but I worked at Accutech for about a year. And then after I finished up my schooling, I wanted to get back to Salt Lake City, and I moved back here. Accutech gave me some good foundational structures to understand what it's like to work in a lab, because going from a in-house lab to dealing with multiple doctors, is completely different. I'm sure you've felt that too. Did you?
Yeah.
Where did you start?
Yeah, I was in-house with a Dr. Hubbard here in Texas, and and he brought me under his wing. I was applying for dental school right after college, and didn't get in the first time because my grades were perfectly average across the board. And I got a flyer for dental lab school, and I was like, I ain't going to no dental lab school. I'm going to be a dentist. I don't want to be lab tech. But he was like, Dr. Hubbard was like, hey, you should check this out. So I went down there to check it out and ended up going to school there and stopped applying for dental school. I had a blast in lab school. So, yeah, I started as an ortho lab tech and then started commercial after school. So,
how was your experience going from the in-house lab to the dental lab?
It's a different level of stress.
Yeah.
All my preferences were based off of the original Dr. Hubbard. It was like, okay, this retainer is like Dr. Hubbard's, but with this difference. And that's how I would learn other doctors' preferences. And because everyone's different. They all key in on something specific that they want you to key in on. And you got to keep all those in your head or on paper or something. Every doctor's preference.
So, I found that the preferences have been one of the most challenging parts as we have grown,
Well, okay, so you went back to Cottonwood. You got to transfer your preferences to your employees. So, how long was it till you got your first employee, or what'd you start in at? Basement, right? You were in a basement.
I did. I started out actually in my friend's basement. I was renting a room from him, and then my brother and I rented out the whole house, and it had to be maybe 250 square feet, if that, maybe 200 square foot. And it went from there to my brother's house after he purchased the house. And I think we went up to about 500 square feet. I had one bedroom, a family room for an office, and my bedroom right in between it, which made for some interesting times. You bring home a girl and everybody knows you got laid that night at work. So, and there was a couple times where I was late getting up. I mean, there was a couple close calls with employees seeing me naked going from the shower.
Oh my God. Oh man. Okay. If we clip this, we got to make a YouTube short out of that part. That's hilarious. Well, and I worked for an Ortho Lab Guy, Jason. He was been on this channel. I've interviewed him before, and he lived upstairs. No, he had his lab upstairs and lived downstairs. And so, yeah, he could hear the employees coming in the morning going upstairs. So, he had to be careful how he was dressed. So, you're not alone. You lived in the lab.
I lived in the lab literally. So, the first place I was at, I didn't have any employees. The first thing I did, though, was I hired an accountant. I never did my own accounting. So I always had someone pay my bills, balance my checkbook. I know that's not one of my strengths as far as
making sure not mine either.
Match. Yeah. And that's always been valuable. That's one step I can say. Make sure just the books are straight, make sure the checks are clearing, and have someone kind of get that done for you. And I progressed. I think it was about a year until I hired my first person. The first person I hired was when I moved into my brother's space, and I hired a driver and someone to pumice and polish.
Oh wow, yeah. Go ahead.
That?
Yeah, I was gonna say that the driver is usually the first hire for sure, because you're more valuable in the house bending wire than out delivering.
You really are. And that's each time you grow, it's a struggle, because when you're doing the deliveries, you build so much rapport with your customers, and they like you so much. You see them every day, and it really helps in the difficult times when there's maybe a communication issue or something going on, and you can be there on a daily basis. And that's just one of those steps that creates a little bit more. Just one more thing you have to manage is making sure your customers are happy and that you do have that transparency, and keeping that relationship. So, and then I hired a wire bender about a year and a half. And I think in that space, I was there for about a year and a half, and I had another part-time lab technician. So I had one full-time wire bender and a full-time driver and a part-time like trimmer, acrylic person. And after being there, we outgrew that. I moved to my basement. I bought my own house just so I could have my own lab space. And that was, I bought a 3,200 or about 3,000 square foot house. So I had 1,500 square feet in the basement. And I bought my house based upon what I needed for a lab. So I had to have a separate entrance. I had to have huge parking on the side so that I could have employees there.
I remember Christian Sarman talking about that. Oh, and we have Luciano from Brazil. He said he started work in 2000 at his parents' house in a little room. So a lot of us got started the same way. And he was in Brazil, so it doesn't even matter where you're at. We all start small.
I love to hear that. Like, I mean, that's the fun part about these stories is where you can take this. That was the amazing thing about this business is you can start it in your basement or something and have low overhead. It's what makes it a reality for someone to get into business for themselves.
And Ortho is really good about that too, because you don't need big equipment in Ortho. Well, okay, now it's digital. We'll get into that in a little bit as we show some of your equipment. We got pictures, folks, this time. So, but going from you got your own house now. You're in your own basement. You bought this house based on a lab, so your mind is always on the lab, of course. Was it called Cottonwood then?
It was called Cottonwood from the start.
Okay.
Just a local area, and I to be honest, I couldn't really come up with any other names that I liked. And I knew I wanted some kind of name that could be said in one word. Hey, just send it to Cottonwood Labs.
Yeah.
So that was important. And so we grew up in the Cottonwood area. So it's a pretty big area. It's a big name around here. So nothing special about it overall, though. So. Well,
yeah, and I couldn't come up with anything except for Tippett, Tippett Ortho Lab. I tried to go Tippett Tooth Ortho Lab, but none of my family would go for it. They didn't. They thought that's too silly. But anyway, yeah, saying it in one word is a lot easier. Or just send it to the lab guy or lab girl. So that, wow. So how long were you in your own basement?
So we were there for about 2 years. And, that's the other thing. Like, my whole life revolved around making decisions based upon my lab. Mm-hmm. And it impacts you personally negative in a sense. Like, I didn't buy my house because that's where I wanted to live. I bought my house because I wanted a municipality that was friendly to having business licenses, and their regulations allowed me to have employees come to the house. Some places are a little bit like if you lived in Sandy, you might be able to have one employee come to your house. I think in West Valley City, they allowed up to like 3, and I pushed that to 6 or 7.
Oh,
so
under the table. Everybody carpool. We only need 3 cars in the parking lot.
It looked really crazy because, all of a sudden during the day, my house was packed and busy. But I lived in a neighborhood that wasn't, causing problems, and people just minded their own business. So that really helped out. And it really does because, when I was in my brother's house, the interesting story here was we moved in and I built my first 3 labs. My friend's house, Cordell, my brother's house, and then my house. I built from the ground up. And when we were building in my brother's house and then got moving in and started working out of that, we actually had the police called on us for having someone suspected we had a meth lab in the basement.
Okay. I put that in the subtext. Yeah, let's dig into that a little bit. So which lab were you in again?
This was my second lab in my brother's house. This is the one where my bedroom, I lived in it. And
right.
Yeah, people were very sensitive about that. And all they saw was building, and then they see the traffic coming and going. And so that can just be such a hard thing. And that's a stressor too, right? Like, are you operating within the legal boundaries of what your business license is allowing you to do? And Are you making your neighbors happy? I mean, these are all things to consider, and we have to dance around.
So you were in a neighborhood close to other houses, and it's probably one of your neighbors that called, I guess?
Yes, it was one of the neighbors.
and did they come knocking? Like, did they have guns pulled, or just like, we're just checking to see what you got here?
They came during a party that we were having, and they were very concerned that my brother at the time was working for a car dealership, so we had all these nice, BMWs and Mercedes,
oh my God,
stuff like this.
You were ticking every box.
Yeah, they came to the door, not guns drawn, but 4 police officers came to the door. Started the second they opened the door and saw us, they realized we were not cooking meth in the house.
Oh.
That was very apparent. So
right.
We made some jokes about it, and it's something we just laugh about all day now.
Did you invite them in and give them a tour, and or they just were like, okay, this is not what it was supposed to be?
They were very quick at understanding that this was not that type of operation. They could see we were just partying and having a good time. And I was a little heavier. My brothers, they could tell we were not meth people. That was like, we did not have the physique of somebody who was cooking meth.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, you might have been cooking, you just weren't partaking, right? That's what's
the fun of that, huh?
Yeah, that's Heisenbergs Principle, right? The Breaking Bad. We don't use.
Don't get high on your own supply. Right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Oh, what a story! Don't you wish you had cameras and you could film that at the time?
We've had all sorts of stories revolve around that. Some of the other things is so as we moved from there. I mean, I used to get so paranoid, the city would come, the city ordinance people would come to check on my licenses, but I would tell them, don't answer the door if someone's knocking on it, and don't answer any questions, like let me handle it, like
right.
Never happened, but it was always a stress. And then we moved into the buildings that we have now in 2009. If you want to show, there's an outside photo of that. So we have kind of an interesting setup. It's definitely not as fancy. It's not the fanciest setup, but it's very functional. So that middle building right there is our primary lab. And
oh wow! So you're not just there. You're not in that.
No. Yeah, correct. No, so we bought that first building in 2009, and that's the center one, and we operated just out of that until that's 2,200 square feet. We operated out of that one until 2018, and then we purchased the building down from it, the further one. There's a third building to the left. And that's where some of our office space, lunchroom, and things like that went. And then the building to the right, that's actually our digital that you're seeing. We have 2 units on there, and I'm in the furthest one. So we're kind of spread out a little bit.
And you have to walk outside to get to each department, right?
From the main lab, correct. But the end one now is just the lunchroom, and then we rent out the rest of that space. The middle one is just lab. So we do start to finish production in there. And then all the models and digital printing come from the other building. So what's that?
Well, I was going to ask, talking about, you have a whole digital building. And we were just talking before we went live. I'm in my little 14 by 40 building here. And I built just a little digital. You can see my printers behind me. And actually one of those has a Cottonwood Labs sticker on it right there. I kept it on there in your honor.
That way it stays compliant?
Yeah, it stays compliant, yep.
Does that mean I can print out over there? I think we still have the...
oh, that'd be hilarious if I come in one morning.
If I get busy, you might see some models come through on it.
Yeah, I think I got to remember the name of that one. I'll forget the name. Oh, Profuse Tarsier. If y'all know anything about Form Labs, they named... Their serial numbers were animal names. And right here I have a broken enormous monkey. I didn't name it. That's just how it is. But you have a digital room or building, and I just have a room, and it wasn't big enough.
So we have one unit. So that building here is 4 units.
Oh, okay. It's a
that's the
strip
good-
mall kind of thing.
Yeah. So the main building is 2 units made up of 1,100 square feet units. The far one's 900 square foot units. There's 4 of those, and this building's got 4 to 750 square foot units. So it's been really nice because we can just put a walkway into the next unit as we continue to grow.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great. And
Well, what was so interesting? So we bought that first one. It was 2,200 square feet, and we had no clue what we were going to do with the space. Like, how are we going to?
So how are we gonna fill this up?
It's hard to see that, but you have to start preparing, and I think that's the important thing in some of the messaging we could talk about today, like being comfortable with taking some risks and not boxing yourself in too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But and the stories don't end there. So we bought this unit in 2009, 2010. And the other end building was owned by someone who was kind of at the end of their career. They did drafting, and he didn't want to invest in it, but he had people who wanted to rent his space out. So we had, there was literally a brothel in that end unit at one point. Full brothel ran by a motorcycle gang.
Oh my gosh. This is the best interview ever.
So the funny thing is I learned what suspicious males look like, because our windows are all facing out there. And we would see women in fishnet stockings walking that we're in police outfits. And we said we could start a whole reality show based upon.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Just with a webcam in your window. You're like, there goes Jill again. Just wearing her fishnets.
Well, the most interesting thing is guys would drive down, and they drive down, check out the area, drive all the way back up, park at the front of the road, and then walk back down. And it's like, just a message: if you're going to go to a brothel, just drive down and no one will notice you. But the second you start going back and forth and put your hands in your pockets, we know what you're doing.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Well, so here's the interesting story. One day, this guy pulls into the station and he started to walk there, and then he made this different gesture, and it was a dentist, and he was totally going to the brothel, and then realized there's a dental lab there and did not want. He completely tried to play it off. He got some information from me.
Oh my gosh.
And then he took off. So.
Oh, it's like, oh yeah, meant to be here.
Yeah.
What's your what do you do here? Ortho. I'm looking for denture. I'm sorry. I got confused.
I never saw that doctor again. Never even heard. I tried following up with him. I was like, I know why you were here.
Oh
but,
my god.
It's such a small industry. You got to be careful about. Your reputation is very important here. It doesn't take long for people to hear bad things. So, I think in the dental ortho, it really is. And that's one thing I really love about the ORG is we're taking this industry and we're creating a community, and we're creating more transparency.
Oh yeah. And that's the start of this. Well, of course, the conferences. And you've been to a few now, and just the community, and just learning. These are the conversations that you have outside of class that we're having right now, where you learn about, the brothel that was next door to your lab, and being called on by the cops for having a meth lab. We're probably gonna get kicked off YouTube if we're not careful with all these stories. But okay,
I think that's the one thing I love most about going to the conference is really feeling like that sense of community and understanding and having someone to bounce frustrations off. The classes are valuable, but at the end of the day, it's the conversations that happen out in the hallway and at night when we're having drinks, and just being able to feel like you have someone to relate with. You will connect with someone at the conference. That is guaranteed. And I think that's the great thing about these podcasts is to feel that connection, because it really did feel so lonely out there.
Yeah.
You know, starting my lab, I am so blessed to have had someone like Lance to call. You know,
yeah.
Hey, what's going on? Why am I seeing this in my profit margins? I mean, Lance has always been transparent. Christian has always been transparent. I mean, people are willing to share genuine information, and there's plenty of business out there, and we just are a lot healthier. And I do believe that there's something about mental health as far as having that support of the ORG group when we're out there and walking away. There has not been a time that I have not walked away from one of those conferences motivated that I'm going to come back and change something about my lab, you know?
Yeah.
So,
You always come back with one pearl that you can bring back and implement. And that's one of my mentors, Ernest, who was president of the Dental Lab Association. And he was an Ortho Lab Tech owner. And he was like, there's always one pearl I can bring back and learn. And so to segue into being lonely, our community has really come about also because of the digital and how hard of a transition that's been for our whole industry. And I wanted to get back to these pictures because you are way far ahead of a lot of us in this space. So I have some pictures here to show you. Everything. Here we go. I'm going to go downward. So when were you first introduced to digital? Was it in this building now, or was it in your house?
No, it was crammed all into that one building you're seeing there of 2,200 square feet. We had digital, lab, office, and at one time even the break room all into that. When we did digital, I think it was about 5 years ago. So that was right when Envision Tech first came out. We bought our first Envision Tech printer. We bought the smaller one. I forgot the name of that. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Vita?
The Vita, that's it. Yes.
Yeah.
We decided that from start, we looked at the Vita and we knew we needed probably the larger one. But our strategy was that, let's get multiple Vitas versus getting the one large one. So we started with one Vita, and that was a learning lesson. We never got another Vita after that.
Oh no.
It was fast. They
were fast. Yeah.
And by far amazing accuracy. The issue was the ease of use and the turnaround time between prints. So about 6 months later, when we probably were thinking we were going to get a Vita, the Form 2 came out. And we said, well, let's give this thing it's like $33,000.
Yeah.
It's like, what do we got to lose? This Vita was $22,000. We had to take a loan on it. The other one we just paid cash for. And we started with the forms, and man, it worked flawlessly. It just was so easy.
How many of those did you have at one point? Because I only got.
At one point, we had like 12 forms.
Oh wow! Okay, you had a fleet.
We had, and the idea was we warrantied them, and we knew that some of them would break. So we needed about 9 to be fully functional. So we knew that we would always have some down, but we had time. That gave us lead time for warranty repairs, send them in and out. And then after 2 years, after the warranty's up, we just sell them. And we can get about half of what we do. I actually have one up for sale right now. It's in good condition, works, it functions. We've just obviously transitioned over to the Hagears, but back to the forms. So we did the Form 2s. They were really successful. I think we had up to 6 Form 2s. And Forms was really good to deal with us. I mean, I really don't have any complaints. They've been a great partner. They really focused in trying to give us special needs as being a dental lab and a high volume, purchaser of them. The thing I loved about the Forms was all the sensors. I didn't need to set the height on the build platform. The basements or the resin tank. We still have the old school terminology from Envision-Tech, which they call them basements. I mean, if that broke, you could throw it away. We didn't have to spend $800, or I didn't have to spend an hour trying to redo the filament on the resin tank.
Oh, wow.
It just simplified things. So we moved very quick into that. I think we used our Envision Tech maybe for about 3 months, and that was it. It was
Oh,
the
wow.
most expensive print that I ever we maybe got, a fraction of compared to what we put on the forms. But then the Forms 3 came out. We quickly just switched over. I sold all my Form 2s. I think I got $1,500 per Form 2, 15 to 18. And then we moved into the Form 3s, which were great. They worked excellent. Better print times. We went to the draft resin, which helped cut times in half. I would highly recommend the draft, guys.
That was a game changer for our lab, was switching over to the draft, and then you could you could close in on that time with Envision Tech and those guys. You could get close. You could never get there the fast as the Vision Tech, but you get close to it enough to where you set the print and come back a couple hours later and it's done.
Absolutely, yeah. And what do you think of the resin? Is it that more messy? I mean, I've talked to a couple other labs who's part of the ORG. Some of them say, "Oh, we just can't get our techs to use it because it's so much more messier," or there's certain things they didn't like. But have you had any issues that you thought with the draft that you didn't like?
No, I mean, again, it's like, if you keep in your mind, it's like working with honey. It gets sticky, it gets everywhere. You just got to use isopropyl and wipe off all the tools and stuff when you're done. So yeah, I'm dealing with that. Of course, having the wash and the cure, helps with that. And then the new Form 2 thing where you just break them off.
Yeah.
You handle them a lot less. You don't have to scrape them and stuff. You just pop them off and put them in there. So that was I didn't like it at first, but now I want to get a second one for the other printers.
And even if you don't have a form printer, man, you can't go wrong, guys. If you're listening, the form washes and the form cures are absolutely impeccable, guys.
And
no
actually,
better way to do it.
I think I have a picture of your.
You got the form washes right there. We've got form cures. We do use the cure for hay gears. Hay gears has its own cure system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you made the transition last year, or to hay gears for
about 15 months ago. Yeah, we first got our first hay gears. That's our second hay gears, actually.
Oh,
so,
I skipped it. There we go.
That's our first hay gears, and then we just got the hive. So, and that's another thing, and we'll kind of segue into the hay gears a little bit. But guys, if you're listening, I mean, the forms has been dependable, and they also have their own automation set up now. I think.
Yeah.
And that's a game changer. I would highly recommend that, because you can load that thing up at night and have it pull off those models, and you can come in the morning. So that longer print time is even less of a barrier for you if you have that automation from Forms. So,
and I don't know, did Forms have their automation at the conference this past year?
I thought they released it. They had it over there.
Yeah, I feel like they did, but I was so busy I didn't get a chance to peruse everybody's booths. But yeah, they had just released it then. At that time, the automation one.
Well, and I think that's another good reason to come, is see that work, at hand, see how it operates.
I mean, to have just an ortho-specific area of the exhibit hall is huge, and you get to see all your Leone and Dentarum and JBC and company, and Hay Gears was there, and Form Labs was there, and you get to talk and see their equipment, and then talk to other lab owners who use this equipment. So and then just to get through, you have these two. Are these two different printers I'm looking at?
No, they're the same. And just to we still have, you can look, there's a Forms to the left. We still have Forms up there. We still use them for printing. We haven't completely stopped using. For certain things, we like to print on Forms with those. So
that's interesting.
Top, if you look to the left, there's an Asiga that we use for
splints. Yeah.
We love the Asiga for the splints.
Very nice.
Print splints on the hay gears, but it's just, we don't want to switch out the materials. So we like just leaving the material in there. But so we bought both printers first. So we transitioned slowly over. We had one hay gears, worked flawlessly. It's fast. I mean, we're talking 6 to 8 arches in a half an hour.
Oh my God, that would blow my mind.
Yeah, it is so fast. Well, and then so we got both of those, and then that's part of the problem is the interruption. It's printing so fast. So we use that one just for rushes. So if we have to print rushes and get it off, that's what we use that one for.
I couldn't even imagine one arch. Just it's like, oh, it's done before you can even finish loading it.
At those times and speed, unless you were using snapstone, I mean, it takes you 10, 15. I mean, you could pour it up in regular stone and it takes still 15. Like, it's done in 15, 20 minutes with a single arch. It's so fast.
When you get to the time it takes for stone to set up, you're starting to now get back to where you were before digital started.
And the value of this is when you have a mistake, or let's say in final QC you're checking something and it doesn't work, and you're like, we can print out a model really quick to validate it on that model on something that hasn't been adulterated by the production process.
Oh, yeah. That is the beauty of digital, is if something breaks or something and you break the retainer or the model, you just go print another one. You got it on file, and you just,
absolutely. Well, and the thing about this guy too is you can, if you have an issue with a band sizing, how you ditched out your bands. Mm-hmm. So you can reference these things and go back. And if there are issues with sizings, you can address that because that's in the digital format. So there's a lot of value to moving into the digital realm that I don't think, you have to add that as value added into moving into that space and not just look at all the costs as a whole. So
yeah, same thing with the doctors. They buy a scanner and it's actually more expensive now than just taking a cheap impression. But then there's a value add of you always have that file on hand, and getting rid of goopy impressions, which my 7-year-old had to have yesterday, and she did not like it. Just fly is sniping me. All right, so get away from me, fly. All right, so this is in your digital building. You got the working on your ventilation system there, which you said has been just game changer for that.
So we utilized a ventilation system. I actually purchased that from a company that sells stuff for groweries, like weed dispensaries, right?
All right. There's a theme in this podcast. There's a theme in this podcast now. Now you're gonna have black lights. And,
should I use Bitcoin for this transaction?
Yeah. Oh man.
I'm always trying to find ways to keep these things always add up. It's always a struggle to keep your profit margins. When you're one-man band and maybe someone else, it's so much easier, but your expenses can just inflate so fast. So I did the installation myself. It's an 8-inch duct. I used the window there, so I didn't have to put any holes in the wall, but it stunk in digital. And I had carbon filters in there. So we had everything on carbon filter. And it was just heavy. We put this in, all the fumes went away. And that's important for your employees, like something simple. So for $600-$800, and some time, a half a day out of your schedule, you can really improve. And if you notice, I'm taking fumes from the top and it goes down to the bottom.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
A lot of those alcohol fumes. I mean, we got to realize, like, your acrylic monomer fumes are heavier than air.
Yeah,
they're not rising. So if you have a hood above, or you're trying to suck those fumes from above, you're not getting on them. You need floor suction in order to get those fumes out of your lab. In fact, I'm going to start thinking of doing something similar for our SWAT area. So that stands for solder, weld, acrylic, and trim.
Which I think I have.
So that's our digital department. That's our wire bending area. So the next wall over, I'll show you.
That's the same one.
There's our SWAT area. So
I like the SWAT. That's a cool terminology.
it's so easy to say, and it's like just take it to SWAT and get it done.
It has to go with the meth lab, the brothel. I mean, this is a theme we're going on here. So you got the SWAT area that was next to the brothel.
So, you notice we have the Great Lakes carbon filters. I also, down in the bottom, we use Aller Air. We have floor carbon filters. At one point, we had a centralized suction, and we still do. We still utilize it to a point. But we had a Vanneman centralized system, and the issue I had with that was when that suction went down, everything went down. So it was so frustrating when we had an issue to keep it up and running. So we've simplified that. I don't think we have enough time to go into all these details of these little nuances, but you can see there, we've gone to centralized vacuum systems, centralized carbon filter. Really is a great way to go. If one goes out, you just grab it and swap it out. We have extra equipment for everything. And we just redid these areas. If you notice, we went with just the Husky adjustable worktops. Everything is adjustable. Even those workbenches.
Oh, back there. Yeah.
Have the correct ergonomics. And then we used struts. This was Lance's idea. And I use those to create heavy-duty shelves off the back. So that way the shelves move with bench tops.
So if you're a taller person and you need to move it up, you don't constrict yourself with the case pans above you or anything above you.
Correct. And if you want to stand, you can stand. They can be a full standing station. So
that's nice.
The funny thing is everybody says they want a standing station, but at the end of the day, no one uses it.
Nobody use it. They'll use it the first day.
They'll use it the first day. Occasionally when someone is having some back, like if they've hurt their back, they might. But nobody is standing 98% of the time. I maybe see someone standing 2% of the time. There we go. I'll scoot to the left. So that's our wire station. Once again, you can see that we went with the adjustable benches, and we've got nice storages to the left. So I didn't want to put any drawers underneath anything because I wanted that 42 inches of actual desktop to be open
slide back and forth
to the right. And then everybody's got another 32 inches of space for whatever they need and equipment to the left of them or the right of them on those storage spaces. And then they can keep all of their wires and then their personal belongings in there. Now, once again, you can see this is all modified Husky workbenches, and they all adjust. And I put those together myself. It was a lot of work. That is something I had to spend a lot of time getting that all put together.
I think in one of our conference calls, you had pictures of all of these unboxed, and you were in the middle of putting them all together. I remember that.
Well, and so I think I'm around $500 per workstation. So it really came in fairly. I don't think I went over 700. That doesn't include the tooling and stuff like that. See there, once again, we've got the adjustable workstations. So and one thing that I can't stress enough too, as far as going back to the digital key, is guys, don't bother with TVs. Get real monitors. It's better on your eyes all day. I didn't know the difference. I've learned a lot going into the digital that I just made mistakes on like that, like just buying cheap TVs and things just don't operate properly.
Yeah.
It costs you time and money. The other thing is mount them on a stand. Get them up off of there. You can see how theirs is sitting up. So
they're at eye level instead of, up like this looking down at it. Yeah.
And these mouses are wonders if you can figure them out. I know it might seem like you're working with your left hand for the first few days, guys. I don't know. Cade, have you used any of these yet?
No, I haven't.
These are the way to go. They will speed you up in your digital processes. Absolutely.
I can see how worn out that one is.
So this is a Logitech here, M570. So I don't know if you can.
Oh, there we go.
Little product.
Yeah. click on the link below, and we get a kickback every time you buy one.
We gotta start selling some ads and some spaces on that. Let's say
yeah, totally. Maybe Hay Gears is gonna be our sponsor next week because of you. And speaking of digital, moving on to more exciting stuff. Tell us what that thing is.
So that is our AOS wire vending machine, and we are finally, it's taken us quite a bit of time to get it into the workflow, but it is doing an amazing job. Now, the thing is you have to have someone running this, just like anything else. It takes that time.
A dedicated staff?
It really does, or at least a part-time dedicated. I mean, this is where, you've got to change how you do things. Now, what we're finding here is I just trained my first technician on bending adjusted wires. So I hired my new technician, and this is the first technician that I've trained on adjusting labial bows, TPAs, body wires, lower lingual holding arches. We're not teaching them to bend the whole thing. And what we're looking at to do is seeing how fast we can get them up and running with the pre-bent things. So it gets it 95% of the way there. And it really has. I have a technician now. They're bending out. They're just finished up their second week, and they can bend out 4 hollies a day. So
wow. Okay.
My focus in the training was bending the clasping and then teaching them to adjust the bent labial bow. So the bow is 95% there, and then you just adjust it really quick and get it in there. So what I'm finding is my adjustment time on a labial bow for me, so if I bend a labial bow, I'm about 5 minutes. If this gets bent out, the adjustment time's about 2 minutes to adjust it. So
okay,
but I'm an experienced tech. So
right.
The difference is I can get a new person who's trained within 3 weeks, and then they can come in and adjust that labial bow, and their starting adjustment times might be 10 minutes. But before, they might be 2 hours to get
easily
in their first few weeks. And it doesn't look that good. These look great. All I'm teaching them is to bend the lingual side and adapt it to the palatal side, and maybe do what we call the up and over a little bit. But this machine is really done well. Once again, you have to look at it. It's not a replacement. It's not a cure-all. It's not a cure for having a wire bender. It's a tool. And the technician that uses it and designs on it digitally has to understand that it is just a tool. Right. And it's not like you just indiscriminately place a wire. You have to learn how to use this machine and how to compensate for its weaknesses to get all its strengths. And once you do that, just like anything else, it's kind of like just having your own pair of pliers. We all know when those pliers break, you get a new pair of pliers and they just bend a little differently. This machine, you just have to learn how it bends. And once you understand that process, it functions very well. So
you treat it like a pair of pliers, this machine. It's a tool you use to create. It doesn't replace a person, which is what a lot of people are worried about, because you need a person to finich it out.
You need a person to design it. And
to design it.
You need a person to you still need someone who can adjust the wire quickly and understand that, because there's small tacks that has to get done. The idea is with adapting this, I'm hoping to increase productivity through wire by 50% without having to hire any new employees.
Wow, that's huge.
So that's what our hope is now I don't have to. And so we do tons of class 2. So we bend out 20 TPAs and lingual arches out of 045 a day. That's hard on my wire bender's hands. So to bend out all those lingual arches in 045 is hard. This one, we're bending out all of our 045 TPAs and lingual arches in this machine.
That's a thick wire.
It is.
That's a thick wire.
My tech, like I said, he's doing 20 of these hertz a day. And now he doesn't have to put all that time into doing. He's more or less putting
assembling.
Correct.
Yeah, he's assembling, which is and then final. Did this bend correctly? If not, does he have enough skill? The good thing is he knows how to bend one start to finish, and so if he has to adjust one a little bit, I mean that's just so much faster for him. It's like I said, 95% there. So the future is here. For
No
all
one's
of us.
losing their job. We're just
No.
changing how they're doing their job, and they're going to become more specialists. I mean, if I can free up that time, they're going to become people who just make sure the appliance is right. Instead of spending their time bending it the whole time, just make sure you do the preferences right, you know?
Yeah.
And make sure
Yeah.
it's followed to the T. And now they can focus on making a quality an appliance instead of just trying to push the production through. So
Yeah. And so like my son coming in and he wants to be, graphics game designer or whatever. He's been working for me this summer and he's just taken over the 3D printing digital room like nothing. It's so easy for him. And I think if I set him down with this, he might be able and a little bit keep up with me wire bending. Him using this machine and me just wire bending. I just got to teach him, what the final product needs to look like coming out of our lab.
well, it sounds like you and your son should come out and visit my lab, man.
100%. 100%. And then we need to do this podcast live live on location. That'd be the best part.
We need to do that and show how this thing works and teach your son. I mean, your son would be up and bending out, labial bows within a week with this thing. So,
Oh yeah. And I always thought if I ever got this machine, I'd force him to bend the first 100, bend one, and then do the digital one. Bend one, do the just to get the idea of what this tool does. And because I had him doing rest the other day for the first time, and he got frustrated and walked away. So I was like, "This is just rest, son."
Well, and that's the other thing is it's so much easier to hire people for digital positions, and you can train them and get them up and running so much faster.
Yes, and going into the hiring part of this, which you've had to deal with, I'm trying to think. We did. I've been a part of the NBC, so the National Board of Certification, the people who put on the CDT exams and stuff. They've now come out with a digital CDT. So they realize digital is so very important in the future of our industry that you could now get your CDT in digital. And I don't know when the ortho part of that, because it's so different from Crown and Bridge, where Crown and Bridge you're designing a crown and then you're milling out the crown in a puck CAD CAM style. So that the future is so very interesting. I think I went through all the pictures here.
We did not show the trim line yet. So
yes.
Is it so?
Right in front of our face. There we go. Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
So that's not trim line. I'm sorry. That's motion view.
Oh.
So guys, this one is a moneymaker right here. This is, I think it's around $8,500.
Oh, sorry.
So you can go back to the other picture. You can see we have a designated workstation so that computer there is the station that we use for the wire bender. The tech can bend around and double check to make sure everything fits.
That's the future wire bending station.
That is the future is now.
Yeah. Oh, that's usually when you have a big screen like that at the wire bending station, you're just watching YouTube videos, not making the wire on the screen.
So this was, I think, $8,500, and then they are actually going to be coming out with a laser version, so you won't have to do finishing. I think the laser version is around 12. I don't want to quote any prices, but it's not that much more for this. So what we did was they asked me if I just wanted to wait for the laser, and I said no. I want to get the workflow. I think that's the biggest thing about digital is understanding how the workflow works into your space and realizing how much space you need. That's why I talk about, as you expand your labs, make sure you're creating enough room that you have extra space. I would add 20% to what you think you would need to function. And I can guarantee you're going to fill it.
Yeah. As they keep replacing certain functions with machines, you're going to need to have room for the tech and the machine now.
The tech, the machine, and that's where you get that 20% in, as well as start giving your tech 72 inches to work within a workspace. They're going to be so much more effective. We're really focusing on just becoming more efficient as a whole. And this is one step. So I think we should have this up and running. We can do a follow-up. This is something I'm going to actually talk about. We talked about at the conference at the ORG. I'm going to also talk about this at the next conference at the ORG and give my final input on how well this machine works. But for me, $8,000, guys, maybe it was $9,000. I like I said, everything's going up in price. These started, a little bit cheaper, but like inflation and the cost of goods have all gone up. So we understand that they're not sticking. So the sooner you buy one, the less you're going to pay in a sense nowadays. But
and that's just to let people know, this is when you do a suck down for an Essex or something, this trims it out automatically.
I'm sorry, I just assume everybody knows what this is for.
So this is another robot, and it trims out all your. So if you have a ton of Essex, and do you have a number of like how many you got to do a day to justify the cost of a machine like this?
We were pretty much there, so I wasn't worried about that. And the fact is whatever you do for $8,000, this is another employee. Like, once again, I still have to pay someone to run it, but I don't have to train anybody. I can have someone up and running and trimming out 50 retainers a day with this machine within a week. I don't have to teach them how to, like, you reduce that lead time that you need to train. And then it gives you more control as an employer if you're having a bad employee too. And it allows you to bring people in, train them quickly. The process is very sequential. It's all the same. I don't have to train you on hand-eye coordination and how to use these lathes and things. So we're getting rid of these variables and we're making the job simpler. This one, you can stick 7 appliances in, or I think it's like 8 or something. So you'll take 8 trays and put them in there, and you just put the 8 in there, let it trim. And that's what I liked about this one, Motion View. So they can suck them down, put the 8 in there, start the trim process, start sucking down 8 more.
Oh, yeah.
By the time they're done sucking down, or we use the BioStars, which I recommend.
Yeah.
Done with the BioStar, then that's done trimming. If you're only doing one at a time, you're really breaking up your time and finding it's difficult to do that. So when you talk about an $8,000 investment here, and once again, someone has to design that, but creating workflow for your digital department is one more thing. It's like, that might be someone that you hire in or you create that position. And it, in the past, when all we were doing was printing models, it's like, do you have enough business to have a full-time digital person? Well, guess what? Now, between our wire bending machine and our trim line and printing models and going digital splints, I mean, there's plenty of work for digital people to fill that space.
There seems to be, you're going to be able to now split your employees almost into 2 categories. And they come on board with no knowledge, and they get to start being productive almost day one with new technology. But then you'll find a split where there's going to be a set of employees that want to learn more, that want to progress, learn how to wire bend by hand, move on, and just are curious. And you can train them and train the next generation of owners and managers. But then the employees that don't want to learn anymore, they just want to get good at that one step. They can just stay there and just keep getting better doing that one thing over and over again. I don't know. I know you talked. I believe you talked about it in your talk at the conference.
I'm always happy to give an employee a chance if they're wire curious. So
yeah, wire curious. That's a great way of putting that. Yeah.
If you have an interest, I will show you how to bend. I mean, to me, that is one of the hardest positions to train on. And one thing we do, the trick I use in hiring is I'm hiring for artists.
Yeah.
Especially when I hire wire benders, I always look for artists. And I put that like in one of my advertisements, I put, we had orthodontic lab technician for wire bender. That's great. But I also put an ad out for artistic retainer maker.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That's a great way where I found the most artists were applying, because it's like, I'm looking for artists to make retainers. So being more self-descriptive in that definition really helped bring that in.
When I was a manager for another lab, we did that. We got an artist who had a studio, downtown, but he was looking for extra work. This guy was amazing, and he was making notes of what I was teaching him, and his notes looked like they could come out of a medical journal. And I asked him about this. He goes, "Yeah, I used to do art for medical journals. Like he would draw a heart and label all the aortas and stuff." And I would have loved to take his notepad and make copies of it and just make T-shirts out of his drawings. They were just beautiful drawings. But yeah, you're right. That employee, there's a rich pull in the art section and engineering. We had a couple people that were that were engineers and ended up being really good technicians. It's that brain capacity of seeing in 3D and be able to reproduce in 3D.
I have someone, I don't know if we have any time. I might not even be able to, but I know exactly what you're talking about. The artist that did mine, we've hired some artists and her notes look just like that. It's that I use them in my actual training manuals now. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we are at over an hour. We could keep going forever, but I've been enjoying this. Here we go.
Do we have
Diana,
any questions?
Yeah, Diana asked, she said, "I missed the beginning. Is this machine replacing wire bending by hand?" And we may have answered that by now, but no. Yes and no, I guess. It would be your answer for the AOS machine.
So what I said was, Diane, the machine gets you about 95% of the way there. You still have to bend the adaptation into the lingual side. And the other adjustment is usually we have to either open or close those omega loops. So what we're doing is we're utilizing that machine to help speed up my text. My long-term goal is to increase the output from my current text by 50% by having these wires bent for them. And then they're just doing adjustments. So it takes you about 2 minutes to do some final adjustments and get it pushed through on the retainer, even a minute and a half. So the big thing is you're saving time. I'm also using this for TPAs, lingual arches, and the heavier wires that my techs have to bend all day for, like my class 2, my herps, Tamaras, and things like that.
And you do have to change. Yes, we got one from a Facebook user. How easy is it to put square versus round material or thick to thin in that machine to cut? Or will it cut thicker material versus 1mm S6? I'm sure they're talking about the motion view. I'm sure it has to be round, right?
So the material doesn't matter because you are, so we haven't gotten it fully up and running yet, but so what you have to do is you actually cut out around the base of the model, I think, before you put it onto the stand. So that machine takes 6. So you just trim out, if it's square or round, you're just going to trim out around the base of the model.
So that doesn't matter. Okay.
For it to fit in there. It might fit the full disc in there, but I don't think it would matter if it was round or square.
Okay.
Be honest too, because there is room for 6. You probably don't have to cut it out if you only put a couple in there. But that would be something that I could follow up with on our Facebook page. And why don't you come back to the Facebook page and I'll shoot some photos once we get this up and running.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you could put those right under the Facebook page of this video. That'd be a great place to put those.
Yeah.
To follow up.
So come back. We're going to get it up and running next Thursday. So give us 2 weeks and we'll post some information on Facebook and see what we can do and maybe put some video on our YouTube channel.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that'd be great. And then also the thickness. I guess you just program that into the system, what thickness you're trimming.
The thickness, I do know you can trim out splint material. So you can go up to 2 millimeters thick on that. You can
nice.
Too. Let me test it out. That's like I said, I don't want to say anything. Like, let's test it out and put this findings on our Facebook page, guys, and see how well it works. The other benefit of this machine, so this one is, I'm talking specifically about the Motion View. This is their first machine. It uses a large burr. So you don't have to replace that burr as often either. And I can post some photos of the size of that burr. It is huge. So it doesn't get dull and you can cut through those thicker materials. We are going to trade this machine in for the laser. I don't know if the laser machine will trim 2 millimeters. So that will remain to be seen. And that's something else we can post once we get that machine and show how well it works. So
yeah. So That's been all the. Let's see if I can do this correctly now. I believe. Let me check the comments again. Oh, we got Diana. Yeah, just wants to thank you for answering that question. But yeah, well, wrapping this up, and that's a good segue is posting things on our website and on our YouTube channel and stuff. As ORG members, you will get access to a lot of this video content as a member. So pushing that membership spot there, and Josh he said he's gonna make a what would you call it, Josh? What do you call that? Promotional thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like a commercial. We won't call it a commercial because everybody hates those, but we'll promote membership to the ORG, how to do that, what the benefits are, how to get there, and we'll go from there.
All right. Well, I'm gonna call it there. Brandon, thank you so much for being on our podcast and being vice president, for stepping up and volunteering for that position, because it's a lot of work.
Oh, and I'll say this, before we launch the audio, I will be renaming this podcast from the topics today.
We saw some of those going across the bottom.
Well, guys, thank you for your time. Thank you, Kate. Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it. This is a team effort, guys. So if you want to donate some time, if you want to be on the board, put in some 2 cents. We're happy to have more contributors. We're always looking for more people to help out and be a part of this. We really want to grow this. And for everybody's on, please come next year. 2024 ORG. Where is it going to be at this year? Is it at the Westin?
I have it right here. Yeah, it's the Westin in Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. It's actually Irving, Texas. But yeah, so everybody just mark your calendars April 5th and 6th. Go ahead and tell your doctors you're leaving, because they're going to send cases anyway. But go ahead and tell them, and start sending out papers that you'll be gone that Friday, which is the 5th, and Saturday. So yeah, the Westin in Dallas-Fort Worth, right next to Dallas-Fort Worth Airport.
The most important thing about this, guys, is getting your flights in, because that tends to be right around spring break time. And if you don't get your flights in early, they get quite a bit more expensive as we approach. I bought mine early. It wasn't bad. And I think that was a big barrier this year, was people did not get their flights soon enough. So get your flights first, guys. We'll make sure there's plenty of hotel rooms for you, and we'll take care of you guys. It was a great time this last time, and it's a lot of fun. So
Yeah, we've got a bigger space now. We'll have all of Brandon's equipment is going to be in the ortho room. No, we'll have each of those bring their own equipment. Each of those, and they do bring equipment every year. So I think was Motion Viewed. They were there, right? And
they actually missed their flight. They
that's right.
Booth and they missed. But there was a lot of other vendors. There was Trimline. There was Dentarum. Hager's was there. Forms was there. Whipmix was there with their materials and products. I mean, we had a lot of vendors there, guys.
And so
Patricia what's Patricia? JVC.
Oh yeah. Priscilla with JVC was there, and she was one of the originals.
Guys, we had a lot of fun working with this. There was a lot more hands-on than your typical place. Don't you feel like you could kind of get in there? And we had the laser there. We had the pulse arc welders. So.
Oh yeah, you did a demonstration on the pulse arc welder.
I did the laser. Raphael did the pulse arc. I think we did a class on that, guys. And we're gonna have a lot more classes this year as far as lab technician classes go. So, bring your techs, learn something new, and take away some pearls.
And if you come for nothing else, come for the barbecue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And we do get people from other countries coming all the time, Diana. So we'd love to meet you and see you there. Same thing with Luciano, who's working from Brazil. So get your flights in now. This is the largest Ortho Lab conference, I guess, in the world. So that's the best part about it. So
and that's Ortho Lab, not Meth Lab convention.
Yes, not Meth Lab convention. Brandon holds those every weekend at his lab.
That's in Utah.
Yeah, that's in Utah. That's only held in Utah. So if anybody has any questions, we do have a email here if you have any questions or you want to be on the show, the podcast. We'd love to hear your story too. So send us an email at podcast@orthoresource.group. We'd love to hear from you. And until then, I'm going to, let's see. Oh, here we go. We do have a request. Code, I guess that's me. Cade and Brian, maybe you both work with sleep apnea. Orthodontic device, like Neo Sleep, for example. Just curious. Started to work in 2021. So maybe that's something to discuss in the future about laws in America about sleep study.
Yeah, no, we're trying to get into the sleep arena. So I think that's a growing industry. I think it's a good direction to take.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I think we've ran out of time. I mean, I'm happy to go into things, but like we can post some things on the Facebook page to follow up on these things. So
yeah, check out ORG Executive or ORG Tech Talk for those Facebook pages that Josh and helps to manage and stuff. So until then, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. Thank y'all both for helping out with this podcast. I had a blast and learned a lot about drugs. I mean, Ortho Labs. And so we'll talk to y'all later, and have a good day.